we love bringing on guests who don't just talk about success, but actually live it. People who push boundaries, challenge the status quo, and help others do the same. Today's guest is exactly that. Louis Hunter is a guy who gets growth not just in business, but in life. He's a chief operating officer, performance coach, and public speaker. But more than that, he's someone who is obsessed with leveling up, not just for himself, but for everyone he works with, whether it's mindset, business strategy, or personal transformation. Luis has built a career helping people break through their limits and hit new heights. His philosophy, if you're not growing, you're dying. And honestly, that's the kind of energy we need more of. In this conversation, we are going to unpack what makes people truly high performers, how to handle setbacks like a pro, and why mindset is often the real game changer. Plus, we'll hear some of the biggest lessons Luis has learned from his own journey. So let's get into it. Luis, welcome to the show. So, you talk a lot about growth being a way of life. What was the defining moment that sparked your obsession with personal and professional growth?
Thank you. That's a great question. For me, it goes all the way back to when I was at school. I always felt I had that element of wanting to do well. You know, I used to get into sports and I didn't want to just do the sport. I wanted to be great at the sport. So I got anything I did, physical activities, and then I took the same mentality into school. I didn't just want to have okay grades. I wanted to do the best possible grades I could get. Any environment I put myself in, I wanted to do well. And at school, I had an element of where I felt like I didn't fit in. I wasn't one of the cool kids. I didn't really have a lot of friends that way. So I ended up diving into psychology and trying to understand the way people think so that I can better understand how people are acting around me.
Yeah.
That funneled me into a love of mindset. And that journey into mindset is really, to this day, fueled me to be all about, like the saying that you shared there, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I really do believe that. If you look at anything in the world, it continues to grow. Trees that are hundreds of years old, they're still growing. It never stops growing. And I believe that's what we need to do as humans as well.
Wow. So, you were a kid and you didn't fit in. That's a very interesting thing. And that is when you decided to learn more about people's psychology. Why do they do what they do? And yeah, okay, that's interesting. And I completely understand. I resonate with one point where you mentioned that whatever you want to do, you want to give it all. You want to give it 100%, your 100%, and that is something I also like to believe in. Believe in. I mean, sorry, I also firmly believe in that whatever you do in your life, just give your best shot. Please.
Absolutely. I think the key thing that you mentioned there was your 100%.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's so important because we give it 100%, but that means
Yes.
it's your 100%. It doesn't
Your
need to
100.
be what other people are doing. So
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
you phrased that was perfect. And I think people sometimes struggle with that, where if they go, if I'm not doing it to a high standard, well,
Yeah.
I shouldn't bother doing it at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not about that. It's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
best.
Yeah. And that high standard is often built by society. I mean, yeah, no, it's not our
Yeah,
own set of standards.
absolutely.
So, you're a performance coach. What are the biggest mindset shifts that separate high performance from those who stay stuck?
For me, I would say the number one thing that I come across when I'm seeing people who are either start off not high performing and then become or already are versus people who aren't, I find that it's that focus on one thing. I believe shiny object syndrome is the killer of dreams. We start to get distracted by a cool idea, or you see
Yeah.
somebody else doing something exciting, and you start to come away from the thing you're focusing on, and you end up with small skills in multiple areas rather than focusing on one thing at a time. My favourite way to express that is you hear the saying that the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. And that's true. But what a lot of people forget is they didn't start 7 things to get to a million. They focused
Yeah.
on one thing first and then
Yeah.
replicated it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that same thing with acquiring skills and
Yeah.
acquiring high performance. Focus on the one thing first, then move on to the next.
I completely agree with you that distraction is the main cause or main differentiator.
Absolutely. Distractions are our number one killer, and our attention is our most valuable asset.
Yeah, true.
You know, we can all, myself included, we could probably pull out my screen time on my phone, and there's probably elements where I'm
Yeah,
wasting hours per week getting
yeah,
stuck on an addictive device.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Cell
very
phone,
easy
yeah,
done.
yeah. Yeah, cell phone is the enemy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Okay, so how do you personally, stay motivated and accountable when working towards your own goals? Because I'm sure, apart from, being a coach and CEO, you have got your own personal goals. So how do you personally, stay motivated and accountable?
For me, a big element is enjoying what I'm doing. If
Yeah,
I don't truly love the idea of what I want to achieve, I'm not going to achieve it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really, so I focus on goals that I truly want and I'm truly passionate about doing. And when times do get tough, I remember that. Something I like to do with clients is, a lot of people talk about having vision boards and thinking of the goal, but sometimes there are certain days where that positive's not enough. Sometimes we need the pain. So
yeah,
sometimes I like to look at the other side and go, well, if I stop doing what I'm doing, I'll end up there. And I don't want that. And sometimes that motivates you.
yeah,
So I like to differentiate. Sometimes I focus on the positive and say I want that to move forward. Other times I focus on the negative and say I don't want that. So
yeah.
that's why I keep moving forward towards my goal.
So basically, you make sure that whatever you are doing, you are enjoying, you're loving it. That, yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Okay, okay.
certainly for the most part, because I'm not going to love every day. I always like to tell people business is tough. You're not going to love it every day. You're going to have bad days. But if you're doing something that you're enjoying it, or it's a process to get to where you want to be, it makes up for those days. And that's why I think having a team of people is as well. A lot of the businesses that I'm part of, I don't believe in doing everything myself. I have some really, really good skills, but there's a lot of areas I lack. So I work with other people who are really, really good at that thing. So I can go, I'm not good at that. I don't enjoy doing that. So that can get tasked to that person who
Yeah,
is really good at it.
yeah, yeah,
And, I like to use the saying, I'd rather have 50% or 25% of 10 million versus 100% of 100,000.
yeah.
Because you can go so much further with more people.
True that, true that, true that. Okay, so Luis, as a chief operating officer, what are the biggest challenges you face, when it comes to driving business growth, and how do you, tackle them? Like you said, I think, that, you start, delegating tasks based on people's expertise. So if you could, just get into that a bit more.
Yeah, the first thought that came to me there was there's a saying, the best thing in business is people or your staff, and the worst thing in business is your staff. And anybody who has staff knows exactly what I mean there. And that's the first thought when I come into it, because when you're trying to deal with operations of a business, a lot of operations is people based. You want to have the systems in place to optimize workflows, to have people working as optimal as possible. And the difficulty always is there is the pushback from people. You'll implement something and say, we're going to be doing this, and people go, well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah,
Absolutely, it works, but that doesn't mean we can't do it better.
yeah,
Sometimes that behavior shift in people working together, and behaviors is a huge thing. I'm
yeah,
very big on culture.
yeah.
People, I want to reward people and people who want to work there, because then they're more likely to move with the times and change.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So speaking of culture and people, how do you cultivate a high performance culture within a team, especially in fast paced or high pressure environment? Basically, how do you reward your high performance, and yeah, how do you deal with this, deal with high pressure environments? Like you just said that,
Yeah,
they keep coming back at you. Okay, we have done this way. So how do you basically tackle those things?
I have a slightly different mentality versus what I think a lot of business owners make, and I think a lot of business owners focus on keeping costs as low as possible. I have the mentality more, I would rather pay more for a high quality person, and when somebody does a good job, I want to reward them. Now that might not mean paying a bonus, but things like activities and team building and getting
Yeah,
people out and making people go, this is a cool place to work. I
yeah,
want to work here, and have these fun activities so that people start going, I'm here for more than just the money. Because I've even noticed that in the past, I came from an engineering background, and people were like that in the workforce. I was in one of the best, most well paid
yeah.
engineering firms, and people were
Really,
still complaining.
really.
And so you realise that money isn't enough to make people happy. It's the experience and the environment that you create. So I'm very big on that. Pay, at the cost of the business, take people out, have
Yeah.
fun, do things, but in return, you're going to get people who are going to want to work with you. And that, I personally find that that's always a worthwhile investment.
Yeah. yeah,
versus the person who's trying to pay the minimum wage and pay the lowest cost they can, and and making people finish an hour early so they can save wages. It's not going to create a good environment for people.
yeah, yeah. So, like, yeah, I think you said it in the beginning, that culture. You're very big on culture, so that is why you make sure that you are giving your team the environment
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
where
There
they
was
can.
a psychology law, the law of reciprocation. Is that how you
Yeah,
pronounce the
yeah,
word?
yeah,
Where
yeah,
when you give someone something, it is so powerful, and it's well documented in the book Influence. If anybody wants to read that, and it's one of the reasons why, in a lot of time when people go out, they'll refuse a drink. If somebody offers to buy a drink, a lot of times they'll refuse it because it is so powerful. When you
yeah,
offer someone something, they feel like
yeah,
they're indebted to you.
yeah, yeah,
So by using that, a lot of times people use that in sales, but use that in your culture.
yeah,
Bring gifts, bring coffee in for your staff. That small thing, it costs you £4 for a
yeah,
a coffee for a member of staff.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
going to have a drastic change on
yeah.
how they feel.
It is going to have a bigger impact.
Yeah, far bigger impact than giving them the £4.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
beauty of gifts and
Yeah,
activities.
yeah, true that. 100% agree. Okay, Lewis, can you share a moment, in your career when you faced a major setback? How did you turn it around? And but why I want to know, because you're a public speaker and coach, and this mindset coach. So I would want to know that how do you tackle when you face a setback? How do you turn it around? How do yeah,
Absolutely. I like to use the saying, yeah, as it is. And, I had a situation when I got involved in property. My first ever property deal, I lost £30,000 and completely lost, and I had to actually get it out the deal. I ended up hiring somebody that didn't deliver the results. I didn't do my due diligence on the deal because I wasn't knowledgeable. I just trusted them. I ended up getting somebody else to look at it, and they said, this deal's not set up properly. So I lost a lot of money in that. And I ended up showing the deal to a friend, and he said, we can fix it. We can get it making money, but it's going to cost more to go in and fix it. And we did it. And then I said to him, I was like, can we get rid of it? He says, could you sell this to someone? And he went, I could sell this, no problem. It's now working. It will make money. But I just said, I just don't want involved. I look at it and just see the amount of money I've lost. So I got it over. To this day,
yeah,
the property still makes money. So,
yeah,
but unfortunately not for me. But so the big thing is, it would be so easy for me to turn around and say property doesn't work. It's a scam.
yeah,
These.
yeah,
But it's not true. So I need to just see it as it is. I made a mistake. I didn't know do the due diligence. I trusted somebody that I shouldn't have,
yeah, yeah,
and take that as a lesson to go, okay, this is how it is. I actually said to one of my clients, I used the phrase, wealthy people don't complain about things and don't create problems out of situations. And I shared an example of this week I own a laundrette, and I have cleaners who go out and clean apartments. And one of these apartments was an Airbnb, and the guest was refusing to leave.
yeah,
And it caused this big commotion, and the member of staff was getting angry and making a big deal about it. Whereas I wasn't. I
yeah,
was like, we'll just fix this.
yeah, yeah,
So it's that kind of mindset shift on that levels to go, rather than, this is a huge problem, I'm really annoyed, this is ridiculous. You know what? It was ridiculous. It was, it wasn't fair. The person shouldn't have been doing it, but it's happened. Let's just move forward with the solution.
yeah. Well, I like that mindset. It is what it is. I mean, you shouldn't ponder about, things you can't control.
Yes,
Look for ways, where, yeah, work on things you can control. You have,
absolutely. I think that search of control holds a lot of people back. If you get frustrated over something, you and I, we could both agree, we all get angry. We all have
yeah,
days.
yeah,
But you think of how much time you lose being angry.
yeah,
That's not just 5 minutes. You end
yeah,
up losing a few hours.
yeah,
Maybe you then speak,
yeah,
nasty to one of your friends, and now they're
yeah,
a little bit, and it's affected them. It just affects. But if I
yeah,
could just see it as it is,
yeah,
save those 4 or 5, maybe a full day, and just see it as it is.
yeah. A few days back, I heard someone saying, I don't know, he was some celebrity. He said, who is the most dangerous person who says it is what it is in a positive way. Sorry, I just, I do not remember the reasoning. But, he said in a positive way, that the most dangerous person is the one who says it is what it is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
So yeah, I can say, I think I can understand it now where he's coming from. So my
Yeah, 'cause
next,
I think we all have that friend who's just so relaxed about things and nothing
yeah,
bothers them.
yeah,
And I think that's the kind of person you want to be,
you want to be,
but solution based. In business, if we're stressing, and
yeah,
I think I saw Jeff Bezos has a great way of putting this. He says most decisions are two-way doors.
okay,
Go in. If it's the wrong decision, you can go
yeah,
back out.
yeah,
He
yeah,
says only some decisions are one way. Those decisions you need to spend more time thinking about it because you can't undo it. But many decisions that we make, we can go back. We just might not like the fact that we've had to go back.
yeah,
So we just have to accept it, and it is what it is. We made the wrong decision, and sometimes it's better to make the wrong decision fast
yeah.
rather to spend too much time trying to work out what the right decision is.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, yeah, you're right. Most of decisions are two ways. Yeah, but again, I think, it's average human tendency that, we like to make things complicated than it is. Yeah,
I see that a lot, especially sometimes when I start working with new people who are maybe on the early side, they'll
yeah,
overcomplicate things and they'll make a big problem out of something. And when you're further ahead in the game, you look at that problem and go, "That's nothing."
yeah,
But at the time, to them, they're looking at this
yeah,
like the biggest thing they've ever dealt with. And it's for me to learn from that. I took that when I looked at a client who was going, "This is the hardest thing I've ever done," and I'm thinking that's easy compared to what I'm dealing with.
yeah,
And it's having that, then it made me then think, well, next time I have something that seems really big,
yeah,
I should look at it that same way. If somebody ahead of me would be going, that's easy.
yeah.
It's just because I've not learned how to get through it yet.
Yeah. Also, I think you are in a position like, where, like, you're a CEO, and, you have learned a lot about psychology where you help people, with their psychology. Yeah. So I think, at your position, you're also able to look things differently than the person who is stuck in that rut,
Absolutely.
than in the person, who is dealing with that thing. Yeah, yeah, of course, that does, give you an yeah, where you can see things clearly, what is going on.
For the listeners to think, put that into an example, it's like when you've got a friend who's in a relationship and you're
Yeah,
like, that relationship's not working,
yeah,
but they
yeah,
don't see it because they're in it.
yeah,
Everybody else looking in is going, he's
yeah,
bad news. I think you should maybe.
yeah,
And they go,
yeah,
no, 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 he's a great guy, I swear. Oh no, but it's when you're in it, it's so much harder to see it. So it's having that ability to look from the outside in, and I sometimes like to do that, where I like to imagine I'm looking at it from a third person point of view. If a common one I heard before was, if I was presenting this in court to a jury and a judge, what would they see? What would they be saying? If I brought up all this evidence and all these things, what would they see? And think of it from that point of view. And, would this hold up in court? Because sometimes we justify things that aren't true just because we want them to be true. But if you said
yeah.
that in court, the jury would go, no way.
No way. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because yeah, the person, who is in, that person is blinded by it, where, third eye is being able to see what is
Yeah.
going on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
True.
I think that's why having a coach is so valuable. I truly believe everybody should work with some form of coach or a
Really.
therapist or a mentor or something to have that chance to
Yeah.
just talk through it, because sometimes you do know the answer, but by talking it out loud with a person, it makes you realize that you do know the answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or the answer that you have been avoiding, you just, want someone to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. And having that kind of person to say it's okay. Oh, I want to do this, and you talk it through, and they almost give you permission. Because I sometimes notice that with people, that they need to feel they need permission, and I sometimes see that. I work with other partners and businesses, and although we're equal, sometimes I'll use them as like the number one, and I view myself as the number two. I shared that recently at a speech, where sometimes we don't all want to be a number one. Sometimes we need to be a number two and run the idea from someone else.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And that person doesn't actually need to be above you.
yeah,
You could be equal. That person could even be below you.
yeah,
But to me, framing it that way works.
yeah.
It might work for other people as well.
Sometimes that are like, I think, a few days ago, I was listening to this Indian influencer. He said the same thing, the thing that you said, something along the lines of that. You don't have to be a king all the time. Sometimes you should try and be a kingmaker, like, in yeah, in somebody's life again. And like I said, that yeah, he said, something along
That
these
I
lines.
like that kingmaker. It actually reminds me of, I always give the advice, I commonly get asked the question, oh, how do I become a millionaire?
Yeah,
And I always answer it the same way.
yeah,
Make someone else a millionaire first.
yeah,
Bring so much value from
yeah,
what you do, whether it's your skills, whether it's you putting in the effort, or provide so much value to people that they then want to work with you. And I did that in my journey too. I got people ahead of me that I provided them an incredible amount of value to show them that I mean business and that I am capable of doing this. It's very different from a job interview.
yeah,
These kind of opportunities come up to people who have already proven themselves.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, of course.
so I highly recommend that to anyone. Find a way to provide value to people who are ahead of you in the game.
Yeah. So when it's speaking of, ahead in the game, let's go towards the opposite of it. Let's talk about failure. For what's your take on failure? How should people reframe it to fuel growth rather than fear it? Because most of the people, they do not ever start anything because
Yeah,
they fear that, what if I fail? I mean, you have to, yeah. So, what,
absolutely.
yeah,
I think we need to embrace failure. And the example I like to use, although I can't really say I'm very good at dating, but I do like to use dating analogies for it in the sense of if you wanted to go on a date, if you went, if I went up to one girl and she
yeah,
said no, well, then I say, oh, dating doesn't work. If I just view that as a failure, then I'm never going to achieve. So I need to accept that the no's is part of the journey. I might need to speak to 100 people
yeah,
before I find the right one for me. I might spend years and years connecting with people to
yeah,
find that right person.
yeah,
So it's the same in skill acquisition or in business, that we need to go through those no's, those failures, those mistakes. Nothing teaches you quicker than a mistake.
yeah. True that.
I do think we want to. There's a saying: you want to fail fast and fail cheap. The quicker you can make these mistakes, the quicker you're going to learn, and the quicker you're going to then succeed on the other side of it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Wow.
And I still make lots of mistakes. Nobody's going to get it right every time. I do a lot of sales training,
Hmm.
and sales training isn't about being able to convince everybody to buy.
Yeah,
You're not going to get everybody saying yes, but you're
yeah,
going to get a higher percentage.
yeah,
So you're still getting more no's than you do yes.
yeah,
A good close rate is 40 to 50%. So
yeah,
at 40%, you're still getting more no's.
yeah, 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 yeah. And yeah, and you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
It's
also, yeah,
getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
yeah, 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 yeah. And you're also, increasing the probability.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I've got one client who he actually he builds websites. He's just a really young guy, and he keeps struggling to get traction. And I tell him, that you do an amazing job. Your websites are so good. If you were to speak to 100 people, somebody's going to sign up. But he just keeps putting. So I asked. He said to me, about he was doing outreach, and he says, oh, it's not really working. So I replied to him saying, how many thousands did you test with before coming to that conclusion?
yeah.
And his reply was 50, not 50,000, 50. And I
50.
went, you've not done enough to know that it's not working. You could have just got unlucky. You could have just, you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
speak to the 50 wrong girls and you're not going to get a date.
yeah, 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 yeah,
So
yeah.
it's that pre-qualification as well.
So I think what you are saying is, which will lead to my next question. That is, in order, for you to realize whether it is going to work or not, there has to be a relentless pursuit behind it.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, so speaking of relentless pursuit and ambition, my next question is like, we live in a hustle culture. How do you balance relentless ambition with personal well-being? It's like, and I know that because you wear many hats. You're a CEO, you're a public speaker, coach. So how do you basically handle the relentless ambition, the things that you want to achieve? Like you want to coach as many people as you can, and grow your business with this personal well-being. I assume that it can be a lot.
Yes, absolutely. I personally feel that the answer to that question deviates with your age and where you're at. I do really believe when you're young and when you're 18s or coming into your 20s, absolutely push that hustle and really, you've got the young energy, you've got the health on your side, really push. And then, as you get older, I kind of feel you're able to take that step back and you can reap some of the rewards. And I feel the most powerful thing that you get to know that you've done well is to
Yeah,
be able to say no.
yeah,
In the beginning, you want to say yes to as many opportunities as you can, but as you get bigger, you want to start saying no. like you mentioned there about like coaching as many people. And in the beginning, I wanted to help as many people as I can, but I can only work one to one with so many people. So I'm now at the point where I'm saying no, and I'm saying I'm limiting how many people I work one to one. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to create other ways to try and provide value to people, such as doing this. This one conversation can impact a lot of people, and doing things more on a group basis. We try to run things like masterminds and events. It's combining a passion with business as well. So relentless achieving goals, absolutely. But I do have that balance where I enjoy what I do. Like, I don't view this as work. A lot of people would say I work too much, but not everything I do I class as work.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
do it even if I wasn't
yeah,
making
yeah,
money from it. Or
yeah,
so I think the balance is very subjective. I think the best advice I can give is don't let somebody else tell you what's the right balance for you. Because I get it a lot. Oh, you work too much. You need to enjoy yourself. And
yeah,
I always say the same thing. Oh, but I am enjoying myself.
yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. No,
but absolutely have that self care though.
yeah,
Absolutely, I'm very big on it. I like to meditate. I like to go to the sauna.
yeah,
I love a spa.
yeah,
Any opportunity to help relax and switch
yeah,
my brain off because
yeah,
my brain's going crazy all the time.
yeah, yeah,
So it is important to be able to switch it off. And I'll be honest, I don't do it enough.
yeah. Oh, you don't
But
do enough.
yeah,
That's what you think. Okay.
yeah, I think that I think I should switch off more.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, of
because
course, 100%. So, so for you, it's saying no when it is required, and the
absolutely,
second is self-care. You should, when you get a chance, you should try and switch off. But with you, the thing is that you love what you do.
yeah,
So again, it's not a stress, you're just, keep at it all the time.
yeah, and I have that luxury where I can stop.
Yeah,
I'll have teams that can pick up slack if I need to take some time or I'm feeling like I'm burning out. I'll lean on my team to help,
yeah,
and we have good relationships in place where we will look after each other. And the other aspect on that saying no is I think people struggle to say no. Like, a friend will message you, say, "Oh, hey, can you help me move? I'm moving house. Could you help me out with this?" And
yeah,
you're maybe trying to work on your business, and you're like,
yeah,
you don't want to say no, but maybe you need to.
yeah,
Is that serving you?
yeah,
I'm not afraid to cut people out of my life if they're not serving.
yeah.
I won't hang around toxic people. Sometimes people feel stuck there because maybe that toxic person you've been friends with for 10 years, maybe it's part of your family. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I wouldn't say cut out your family and disown them, but maybe you need to limit the amount
yeah,
of time you spend with them
yeah,
while you're focusing on what you want
yeah.
to do.
Oh, this is something because on the internet, you keep hearing people, you keep hearing where, influencers are saying you should cut people, you should cut toxic people off from your life. But then again, what to do if they are your family? You can't, cut people off. So, yeah, like you rightly said, that, you need to have boundaries, yeah,
I like to think element of my day. If I'm, let's take somebody who's maybe listening to this, who's maybe in a job and they're working on their business at the side. They might spend 8 hours at their job with a boss that they hate that's constantly feeding them with negativity. So you've spent 8 hours in negativity. So you need to come home and surround yourself with positivity.
positive
Whether
people.
that's putting a podcast on and listening to things, whether going for a walk, being around people that support you. Try and get as much positivity and try and get a balance. If you're going to spend time with your family and they're toxic, well, maybe just spend 4 hours with them and then the rest of the day positive. So if you can't cut them, try and have more positivity to try and balance the negativity. Because it will affect you, it'll program you. I once said to someone, I said, if I had been playing the piano for 20 years, would you assume that I'm quite good at it? And they went, absolutely. I was like, well, that's you being negative. You've been like this for 20 years. You can't expect that to change overnight. So we need to slowly do that. You've been programmed, and it's not their fault.
Yeah,
Society's negative.
yeah.
People are always complaining, and if you are around that, you'll start to think the same way.
Yeah, true that, true that. Makes sense, makes sense. Okay, so what's the, we are talking about, cutting people off. No, not cutting people off, but, I think, you gave a very balanced way to handle these scenarios, especially, when you are dealing with a family member or a boss. You have to be practical as well. You just, don't leave your job, but, you have to leave your worries at work, and when you are at home, just, be in that moment, because it kind of, like you rightly said, does consume you. So I
Absolutely.
I think that brings to my next question, because uh, like because we live in a society, you just said that where people always like to complain, and basically we are surrounding we are around lots of toxicity, if I have to toxicity, distraction, not toxicity, sorry, but distraction. So in that case, what's the most powerful transformation you have witnessed in someone you have coached? Like, what was that transformation, like how were they when they met you? And yeah.
I think my best one was there was a young guy that I worked with, and he had gone through drugs and smoking, and he ended up going through rehab, and it really affected him, and it was because he was around that environment. It's what everybody else was doing, and we crossed paths because he wanted to get involved and he wanted to make money, he wanted to better his life, and eventually he had met me as part of a networking group, and he ended up spending 6 months saving up to hire me. Within the first month working together, we had 7x his investment in hiring me because we got him straight into working deals. He's one of my. Honestly, I love the guy because I have so much respect for what he's went through, and I still get messages from him thanking some of the things we've went through because he'll come to me. He'll come to me and he'll say, "Look, I done something silly last night. I had a lapse. I struggled. We talk it through. We would do a little bit of coaching, facilitation. He's really focused and driven to do that. It felt like he had that fire. It was just we just had to break that shell, and by breaking that, now he straight away started signing clients.
Yeah.
Started doing a really good job. So he's the first person that comes to mind with my when I say the sort of best transformation.
Yeah. Can I ask you one thing? So people come to you. Do you kind of, because you deal with lots of people. So can you tell from the beginning, do you have this inclination, I would say, or intuition that, okay, this person is going to transform and this person will not, or this person is just here for time. Can you recognize, can you see some pattern from the, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm actually, I love that you've asked that because I always say to people that I feel like my superpower is being able to see potential in people, is being able to see who they are deep down, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
So I think yes, I do, and I've got some good examples. I actually, there was an ex-partner that I had before, and I was
Yeah.
like, there's this amazing person deep down inside you, and she wasn't letting it out. She was going through stuff. We ended up separating, and then we got back. We reconnected later on, and she had become this person.
Yeah.
She had
Yeah.
let out this amazing person, and I asked her, I was like, where did this come from? And she revealed she actually started working with a coach.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, it was there. Obviously, I wouldn't coach a partner. I don't think that would be right. But she got somebody, and it brought out that deep person inside. So I really do feel like I can see that in people, and I'm also in a position where I won't work with someone if I don't see that.
Yeah.
If I look
Yeah.
in them and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't think they're right here, I think it would be a disservice to both them and me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for me, the coaching, it's not
Yeah.
about the money.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
help people.
Yeah.
I can't do it for free because it is my time, but I'm able to say no to people and say, I don't think would be a right fit. And I don't
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
because we've also got our energy. I'm quite a
Yeah.
high energy person. I wouldn't work very well with a low energy client.
Yeah, of course, you have to make sure that, people are matching your wavelength. I completely understand. And that actually, clarifies, I think, that actually helps me understanding when you said that, why do you love your job? Because you're being able to pick people whom you see potential, and
Yes.
with whom your wavelength matches with. So I think, yeah, so yeah, of course, if people and basically being on a same and somewhat on a same energy level does play a big role.
And I think that goes back well into what we said with culture too.
Yeah.
So if you're a high energy person, you're going to hire people who have that same vibe. So it's worth noting to the people listening, if you're more of a negative person, you're
Yeah.
more likely to then hire negative people because
Yeah.
like attracts like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that might create a
Yeah.
bad culture.
Your
So it
tribe,
starts
your
with
right.
yourself.
I have one more question, and just related to a personal coach. So, what are the areas that you work upon, when it comes to basically dealing with people? Like, Like, people come to you. So what are the areas that you work with, or work on
Yep.
with them?
Obviously I work with the coaching consultancy, so I tend to work with businesses or people who are trying to start their business or typically have one. But what I'm actually doing 9 times out of 10, it's mindset.
This
It really is that action taken, that driving forward. I like to say a a bad routine done good is better than a good routine done bad.
God, yes.
So it makes more. So I'm all about people saying, don't try and perfect it. Just go out and start doing it
Yeah,
and perfect and get better along the way. So sometimes there's a saying in sales that you want to sell them on what they want and then give them what they need.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I once sold somebody, I took them on to help them. He put up this post before in this group and he said, this person had messaged saying that was the worst sales call I've ever been on. So he put this question up saying, can someone help me with sales? And everybody started giving sales advice. And I went in and I went, how much do you believe in your product on a scale of 1 to 10?
yeah,
And he said 4. I said, so sales wasn't your problem. I said, so I sold to them and I said, I will fix your sales.
yeah,
So that was what I sold them on. I brought him in and I did zero sales training because sales wasn't the issue.
yeah,
He didn't believe in his product.
yeah,
His product wasn't high enough quality to sell.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was
To
like,
begin
Sabo,
with.
if you love your product and you know 100% that it's going to help someone, then it's so easy to sell. You don't need to be. I like to use the example. Have you ever had friends that ask you to come out on a night out or something, and you
Yeah,
say, no, 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 I'm busy, I can't go, and they become the best salespeople in the world.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
do. Oh, but we're going to go here. You'll have this great time. You're going to do this. We're going to do that. It's going to be great.
yeah, 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 yeah.
They're not sales trained. It's because they 100% truly believe that that you will enjoy it.
You'll enjoy it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Salespeople, I mean, I think, to be a good salesperson, I think, you really have to be charming. I was actually, I think, I watched it on TikTok. Somebody said that basically what sales is, basically, or who salespeople are. People are, who flirt their way up. But again,
Yeah,
it's a like in a positive way. Of course,
yeah,
you have to do a little bit of flirting. You have to be charming, otherwise, yeah, people are not going to buy from you.
yeah. I think because I like in the fact that I studied the psychology, I studied influence and sales, and that also meant I studied forms of manipulation.
Yeah,
And I always like to tell people, the difference between influence and manipulation is intent. If I'm flirting with someone and it's nice, we know what it feels like to flirt, and we have that, we feel good, it's going nice, we're getting what we want. If you're using that to actually help the person and benefit them, then
yeah,
that's great. The problem then comes when people use that to manipulate and use that for their own personal or selfish gain. And that's where, so I think that's why sales and influence gets a bad reputation because it can be used bad. But if you have a product that you genuinely believe can help
yeah,
people, and if you're charming and flirty and you're connecting
yeah.
with people, then that's okay.
And I think, again, people who use manipulation as a tactic. I don't know much about sales. I'm not from sales. I'm from marketing. So I think I think people also know that they are being manipulated. That
100.
they are being heavily persuaded to, and nobody likes the idea to be sold.
We all have that gut feeling. We know when it
Yeah,
doesn't feel right that
yeah,
this person,
yeah,
something feels off about this person.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that could well be because they're trying to manipulate you. And unfortunately, some people do get manipulated.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I truly believe we need to focus on making sure we do provide value to people. And I'm very big on when my sales. I tell the sales people, if you're on a call with someone and you don't think that this product's going to help them,
yeah.
you don't sell.
Don't sell.
You can refer them and recommend them something else, that's fine. But
Yeah,
don't be selling to someone and making them sign up to something for them to go, this isn't
yeah,
for me. It's just going to cause a chargeback anyway. Then you're going to get a bad review, and that person's going to feel
yeah,
dirty.
yeah,
That yucky feeling that you've got when
yeah.
somebody took advantage of you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you work on mindset. So speaking of mindsets, because you just mentioned that salespeople were giving him advice, but you went in and you asked him that, what do you actually think of the product out of 10 on a scale of, 1 to 10? And he said 4. And then, you worked on his mindset. You knew that, where the problem lies.
Yes.
So mindset, mindset was something that you worked on. So my next question is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone stuck in a rut, because there are so many people, who are stuck in a rut nowadays, personally and professionally, what would that advice be? Like, if you could, give, one
Yeah.
piece of advice?
Am I only allowed to give one?
Oh, please just give as many as you can. I just said that at minimum, give me one.
At minimum, okay. I like that. I like you. One of the first things that came to my mind there actually was, why was I able to find the real issue? And it's that element of we have what in coaching we call the advice monster.
Yeah,
We like to give advice on something before we've truly understood it.
yeah,
So to spin that around back onto yourself, make sure you dig that little bit deeper and go, is this the real issue? Or is it something deeper? That's why the first thing I'll do in coaching, if I'm going on with a new person, a new issue comes up, they don't just tell me what it is and I just tell them the answer. I'll ask some more questions and go deeper.
yeah,
So to those of you doing it yourself who don't have a coach, you can do that yourself, and a great way to do that is journaling. If you have an issue, write it down. The reason why journaling works so well and why coaching works is you can't write as fast as you can think. So it forces you to slow down and actually process it. So by doing that, you write it out, you think it through and go deeper. Ask yourself, why, and what else? These simple questions to go there. It might seem silly just to ask, and what else? But let it flow. The amount of times I've done that on somebody's told me the issue and that's it all. And I go, okay, and what else? 9 times out of 10, they say something else. Because they just stop and go, oh, actually, there is something else here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that might be the real issue.
That might be the. You know what? Actually, today I'm going to try this one out, the journaling thing. So, because I have been told, so many times that, you should journal, you should start journaling. And I'm like, what's the point? What's the point? But, the thing that you just said, because
Yeah,
when you start writing, your thinking process gets slow. So, you kind of, get time to think over it. Now, this is something, thank you. I'm going to try it out.
that's great. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. And that is what, in essence, that's what we do as coaches a lot of the time, is we just get you to slow down a little bit. Because a lot of the time I do, the difference, to some people may not know, the difference in coaching and mentoring is a mentor will show you what to do. A coach will facilitate the answer that you typically already have.
Yeah.
So a coach doesn't need to be knowledgeable in the topic that they're coaching in. As long as you're knowledgeable, they will take the information from you, active listening, specific questions. That's what coaching's all about. So I do both. So I do coaching. Mindset is all about coaching because,
Yeah.
Everybody's mindset's to their individual. I'm not going to tell you what to think. For business, I'll do more mentoring and say, this is what I would do and this is the direction I would go in. And then they can decide, is that something they want to do or not? Because there's always multiple ways. I never like to trust somebody that says, you should do this.
Yeah.
I like to go, this is what I would do, and this is what has worked for me.
Work for me. Yeah.
But that might not mean it's right for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to avoid people that say, you have to do it this way.
We have to.
That, to me, is a bad mentor.
Yeah, true. No, I 100% agree because I think you like to understand the personality and then basically navigate, how to basically work on his mindset. You'd never tell people that this is what you should do because,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Because there's so many ways of doing things. It's like if somebody's in a wheelchair and you'd say that in order to lose weight, they need to go for a run. Like, that's crazy.
yeah.
So one piece of advice doesn't fit all. So I do. That's why I love the coaching, and I love that's why I love these as well with the podcast, because all it takes is somebody to listen to one thing and it works in their brain and they go, that's a good idea. I want to try that, and then maybe it works for them. You could read a whole book. If you take one thing from a book or one thing from a podcast, you don't need to take everything. Just one.
Yeah.
That could change your life.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, because again, like you said, like you just mentioned, because you don't like, people to tell, what to do because, again, one size doesn't fit all. That's because you understand that every human being is different. And what happens with human beings, the minute, I have been told, start journaling. I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, there you go. You're not going to do it because we naturally have that instinct. If we use that example. If you'd put your hand out right now, if I pushed against your hand, automatically you'll push back.
Yeah,
it's an automatic instinct, and we do that mentally too.
Yeah.
If I say you have to do this, your brain automatically goes, "Oh, I don't want to do this."
Yeah, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, and coming back to culture too, that's a huge thing in leadership. If somebody comes up and says, "I've had this issue," rather than me saying, "This is what you need to do," I could say, "What would you do?" Or "How are you going to deal with it?" And I might disagree slightly and I might say, "Oh, okay, have you thought about this?" But I'm not going to turn around and say, "No, do it this way." Because now they feel powerless. As a leader, as you've already got the power. That's why you see that a lot in people who go into leadership roles, who are promoted.
Yeah.
They want the power and they want to tell you what to do. You've already got the power. Don't take the power away from other people.
Yeah.
So give them a chance to go, what would you do? And I think I've seen that the best managers and leaders that I have will always go, okay, what are you going to do about it? Or how would you do this? And then add to it. Say, okay, that's great. How about you also try this?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, giving them an environment and
Yes.
independence is
Because you
something.
want people to thrive, especially your team. It's not about
Yeah.
pulling the whip out and telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Which, on a funny note, one of my members of staff has got a whip. She does juggling. So they've got one of those whips because she does all the shows. So she brought it into to the
Yeah.
laundrette one time. So if she becomes the boss, she'll be able to bring the whip
Yeah.
out. But it's true. You want people to thrive. So by letting people make those decisions, we all know what it feels like for somebody to say, "No, you're wrong." It feels rubbish, and it automatically you go, "I don't think I am wrong though." It makes you fight it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I done a leadership keynote and I shared the two most powerful words in the English language, or the two most powerful sentences, is "I agree" and "you're right."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Instantly, that makes you feel good. And I facilitated this quite well. I asked people what they think it was, and somebody would say, "Oh, was it I love you?" And they go, "I agree, that's a really powerful way, but that's not the one I'm looking for." And somebody else will say, "Oh, you're right, that's really powerful." And then I revealed I was using it on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, you notice how even though every one of you were technically wrong because you didn't have the answer, did anybody actually feel like they were wrong? Because
Yeah.
every one of you, I said, "I agree" or "you're right," so you didn't feel wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that you're right and
Yeah.
I could say, "Oh, it's warm in here," and you might turn around and say, "Well, actually, it's 21 degrees, which is ambient room temperature, for therefore you can't be warm."
Yeah.
Logically, you're right, but that doesn't make me feel good. But I feel warm,
Yeah.
and I'm allowed to feel warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So agreeing with people sometimes is just acknowledging how they feel.
Yeah.
You're right, you do seem warm,
Yeah.
but I'm not warm.
Yeah.
It's
So acknowledging people, yeah, that's one of the most important thing, because that is how you get to work with people. You have to acknowledge their feelings, and not also that you also have to
yeah,
understand where
we're
they are
not
coming from.
robots.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, yeah, you have to acknowledge their feelings, otherwise you can't work with them. It'll just go keep going back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, and one other thing I can add to that, if you're ever in a discussion that maybe they aren't right, rather than a common phrase that people like to go is "no but" or "yes but," if you can reframe that to "yes and," then you acknowledge what they've said and then add to it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
say, "Yes, and we're also, what about this?"
yeah,
Or, "Yes, and here's what we could do about that."
yeah.
So you add to it rather than dismiss what they're saying and correcting them. You're acknowledging what they're saying and adding more to it. Such a powerful small change that you can make that can make people feel much better and much more included.
So I think it has a lot to do, with your belief system as well.
Absolutely.
So, and of course, a little bit has to do with the social learning, social cues, and there are, lots of layers. So, my next question, how do you help people break free from limiting beliefs that are holding them back? Like you just said, that you should say yes, and because the minute you say yes, but this, what happens is you're negating. You're saying yes, but the minute you say but,
Yes.
it goes into negative.
It's that word specifically. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you basically, yeah, how do you help people break free from limiting beliefs that are holding them back? How do you do that?
Absolutely. The first thing I like to mention there is the fact that it's a limiting belief, because beliefs aren't all bad. I like to tell people, if a belief is serving them, then absolutely don't let somebody try and change what you think if you have a belief that benefits you. But when there's a belief that you've got that's not serving you, i.e. a limiting belief, I like to use, like what I mentioned with the court situation of, would that stand up in court if I actually took all the evidence? With a belief, what we want to do is, a belief is typically like a table with legs. So the legs is the evidence that supports it. So what we want to do is we want to start breaking the legs and create a new belief, so a new table, and we're going to put new legs on it, which is the new evidence. So if somebody says, "I'm not good enough," and they say, "Well, I'm not good enough because every time I go on a date I get rejected," or every time I message a girl they don't reply, and so I once got told I was fat. So you've got three evidences there that back up your limiting belief. So we want to target each one of them and say, okay, can we disprove any of them? If we stood up in court, can we disprove that? So we want to go all lawyer on that. So we go, has anybody ever said that you look attractive? 9 times out of 10 they'll probably say, yeah, they have. Or we'll look for things. Okay, well, what type of girls did you message? Did you message, the super popular girl that doesn't reply to anyone anyway?
Yeah.
I don't know, like we can delve into that. Start going and start building up new evidence to support the new belief. So we need to do both. We need to both disprove the old evidence and create new evidence for the new belief. The new belief could be I am good enough, or I am worthy, or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, yeah, working on their belief system and also basically bringing them out of their headset, like
Absolutely,
yeah,
yes.
where they are convinced that nobody wants to date me, or this is not working. So you work on their, yeah, okay. So basically,
Absolutely.
you
And
try and
that's exactly what happens. People get in that box and they
yeah,
believe it. And your mind, where there's a Tony Robbins quote, where focus goes, energy flows. If you look to buy a new car and you go, I really want that new car, all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. You start noticing things that are aligned with your thoughts. So if you believe that you're not good enough, you're going to notice things that back that up.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
you start saying I am good enough, then you're going to start noticing things that back that up too.
yeah. That's a very good point. Like it happens with us a lot of time. That I think yeah, that when you believe that okay, you're not good enough, then you see everything around you being not good enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
There was actually another one that Tony Robbins did. He said he got you had to close your eyes, and then I think it was so. Then you had to then look at everything that was red and count it. So you had like 30 seconds to count everything that was red,
yeah,
and they were like, okay. And then you had to close your eyes and say, okay, how many things were blue?
yeah,
Everybody's like, I didn't see any. And it was that point you noticed what you were looking for. And then the other thing he then asked was, how many of you saw burgundy but called it red
yeah.
because you wanted to find another thing that was red?
Another thing.
So you start changing what you see. Your brain does it completely subconsciously. It will start changing what you see to suit your narrative, to suit the way you are. If you believe the world is a horrible, nasty place, then you're going to see horrible, nasty things. If you think the world's beautiful and nature's wonderful, you're going to end up being around and seeing it, and you're going to appreciate these things.
Yeah, I wanted.
But they're both true. Both of those, the good and the bad, are both there.
Yeah, yeah.
But you will only see the ones that are aligned with your belief.
I 100% agree with what you just said. It's like universe gives you what you give to the universe.
Absolutely. I'm very big on that, which is why when I mentioned earlier about making someone else a millionaire first, I always believe give first. The more you give, the more you'll receive.
Thank you so much for that. That's a really good way, being in a positive mindset. I think it is the only way to go about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to do something with your life, be happy.
Absolutely. I've got a good point on emotions actually. Have you ever maybe it's either yourself or somebody that you know who's been angry and somebody makes you laugh and you go, stop making me laugh, I'm trying to be
Yeah.
angry. And it's that proof that you're choosing to be angry.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a choice. We can choose to feel how we want to feel. So if you want to be positive and you want to be happy and laugh at things and think the world's great, you're going to be happier.
yeah, yeah,
So I would encourage people, some people say, oh, but it's not true. Like, who cares if it's true? Enjoy life and be happy about it rather than
yeah,
thinking about all the
yeah,
terrible things. Because we're taught it. There's tribes in Africa that celebrate death and they have a party when somebody dies. Whereas we cry, we mourn. For them, it's a celebration that this person has finished their life and they're moving on to their next journey, and that's their belief.
yeah, yeah,
Their beliefs making them happier than our beliefs. So, is it true? We don't know, but they're happier. So it's that element of, that's why I like to remind people, if you have a belief that is serving you, don't let somebody else break that. Because if it's making you feel good, if believing in the tooth fairy makes you happy, then keep doing that. Don't let somebody else say not to.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Wow, no, that's really a great point. That I think, yeah, I think this is, what you choose to believe, and yeah, that example of South Africa, I did not know that. Thank you for,
Yeah, and I think that's why religion works really well for a lot of people. It's that element of you don't necessarily know, but because you follow that belief, you're able to live a more positive life
yeah, yeah,
because you have a set of beliefs
yeah,
that guide you.
yeah, because of that belief, you're able to navigate your life.
Yeah,
So it is
absolutely.
working for you. So yeah, most of the time, yeah, it is that.
Absolutely. I do think that works for a lot of people, and I have noticed a big, as people get older and they do end up turning to types of religion, and I think that, whichever direction, I always, find a belief system that works for you and go with it, and don't let other people try and tell you what to think. Like this whole podcast, I'm sharing how I feel and what I think, but if it's not right for some people, then don't live like me. I like the way I live.
Yeah.
I work
Yeah.
a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Other people might not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You do you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tim Ferriss wrote in his book, The 4 Hour Work Week, he said, who's wealthier? The person who's living in New York who makes 100,000 a year working 80 hours a week, or the guy in the Bahamas working 12 hours a week making 30,000 a year. When you think about it, it's not all about how much money you're making, it's that freedom, that lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I wanted yeah.
Unless the person wants to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. It's about how you choose to live your life, how what you believe in. These are the things, that makes a big impact in your life, in your
Yeah.
day-to-day life.
It's what makes us human.
Yeah.
We have this blessed ability with our amazing minds to be able to have these beliefs. Whereas other animals and other species don't have that.
Don't have that.
That's why we're able to do these amazing things. And unfortunately, we allow it to go the negative way, and we let it make us miserable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's capable of making us miserable, it's capable of making us happy.
Yeah.
So we just need to work on that. I always remind people, good cannot exist without bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, everything would be neutral.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we need to have bad in order to feel good.
Yeah, it's way of life. Yeah, yeah, do that.
Yeah, and that's why I like, we talked about the hustle and the pushing. I like to do things like, swimming in the sea and doing cold plunges and cold showers and doing hard exercise. I want to push myself, because when you're not pushing yourself, you feel even better.
Yeah, yeah.
I encourage anyone, when you make a bit of money, if you've got a really nice car, get in a not so nice car every now and again. And then when you get back into yours, you go, this is really nice.
Yeah.
We ran a mastermind where we camped. We camped for 3 days, and it got very cold because it was later on in the year when we ran this. And every single one of us was messaging, going, "Oh, it was so good when I got home and got in my shower."
Yeah.
How often do you appreciate your shower? You use it every day and you don't really think about it. But when we got in and we were all cold and we go, "Oh, this is so nice," you appreciate it so much more. So I'm very big on put yourself in uncomfortable situations to help you appreciate what you have.
What you have, yeah. True that. Now I come to my favorite question, which is, as a public speaker, what's your secret to captivating an audience and leaving a lasting impression or impact? Basically, yeah, how do you hook them, keep them hooked?
It's a great question. For me, I enjoy facilitation, so I prefer doing more things like workshops rather than keynotes. So when we're facilitating, I want to engage with the audience, and there's a saying in public speaking that the brilliance is in the room.
Sorry, what?
The brilliance is in the room. So it's not necessarily what I have to say, it could be what the audience says. So I might engage with the audience, and I could be, let's say I was talking about, losing weight, and I ask someone, okay, what would you do to lose weight? They say, oh, I would go for a walk. And okay, so who else agrees that going for a walk would help them? So by doing that, it was a really basic example, but it helps other people feel included and engaged more. So that's the style of speaking I like to use. Other than that, energy. When you see, I've seen it many, many times. I've been at many speakers and I see myself sitting and I slowly start to fall down. I'm falling asleep. And I'm like, oh, and I cry and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be disrespectful to the speaker. Didn't even realise I was falling. Yeah. Because their energy is that low that I was struggling to connect with them. So, when you're captivating a whole audience, you need to be the highest energy in the room. As a good rule of thumb, speak as if you don't have a microphone on. Speak as if you don't have a microphone.
Okay.
So if your microphone was to turn off, you should still be projecting that high energy.
Yeah.
People have a habit of the minute a microphone comes out, they start talking really quietly, and it's have that energy up, and I think that's probably the top two things if anybody wants to get into speaking. And it's the two that I see people struggle with. I help to train people, like if we're pitching, it could be something like pitching at a networking event. You stand up to a 30-second pitch. The amount of people that I get coming up to me about my pitch that have no interest in what I pitched about. they were just impressed by my energy,
Energy.
and that attracted more people to come to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a value point. If you are in business and you're going to networking events, if you can attract people with your energy, you'll do a lot more business. Usually that's the point where I review to people go, oh, I'm actually a professional speaker, and they go, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because if, yeah, when they like your energy, of course, anything you say, I'm a public speaker,
Yeah,
because they would love to listen to you because you are already in sync with their energy. You're vibing. So yeah, that's the
absolutely. And like we talked about earlier, I want to attract people who are on my energy. So the high energy people are going to be highly engaging. The low energy people are going to go, this isn't for me, which
yeah,
is fine because they're not the people I'm trying to connect with.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so the 2 points that you mentioned are basically to keep your audience hooked is interacting with your audience
Absolutely.
as as you quoted that brilliance is in the room, and so you need to interact with with your audience. And second is energy. You have to be like
Absolutely.
energetic. Just work on your energy that when you enter the room.
And it's the first thing I notice when I see a good speaker. The first thing I notice is their energy.
Energy.
And it really is the standout between a good speaker and a great speaker.
Yeah, yeah. No, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Energy. Yeah, people.
Yeah, because anybody can write a good speech. You could spend like there's a lot of great writers out there, and they'll spend all this time studying. Like for example, one of my favorite authors was actually Robert Greene. The work he did is phenomenal. I love that.
Right.
But as a speaker, he's very relaxed and very low energy,
Yeah, really.
and I struggle to listen to him speaking, and it frustrates me because I'm like, this man is brilliant, but I'm struggling to listen to him.
He can't be my idol. No, I'm just saying. Because some people are good at writing and
Yeah.
yeah,
So bringing that into speaking, you need to write that really good, but then have that energy. I knew a guy. It was actually I learned a lot from him speaking, and he had this ability to make the most boring subject interesting. He could
really.
talk about anything and
Yeah,
have you interested,
yeah.
and it was the energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, of course, in energy, it does play a big role. And one more thing. So you went to listen to Robert Greene in a crowded setting.
Yeah, it was actually I watched it online,
Yeah, you watched online.
which that's maybe also a reason why the energy wasn't as good. I don't think virtual speaking is as good. I really do think being in the room makes a big difference. I really noticed the energy difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that might be why, but I did
Yeah,
notice with Robert, it didn't have the energy I would have liked to have seen.
yeah, yeah. No, makes sense, makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Of course, it'll be different.
Yeah, because he's not a speaker, really. He's not trained as a speaker.
Right.
He's just sharing knowledge. So he's not done, because people forget that everything's a skill. You have to actually learn how to do it. I've done speaker training. I could reveal the first time every time I stepped on stage, I threw up. I didn't think I was ever going to be a speaker. I was a shy person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And the reason I like to share that story is on the other side of fear, I discovered something I loved.
yeah,
I had no idea that I would love public speaking, but I grew up scared of it. I used to hate the idea of speaking in front of people.
yeah,
So to anyone listening, the thing you might love might be on the other side of fear. So
yeah, yeah,
that could be an opportunity to try and overcome that fear because you might end up loving it.
yeah. No, that's 100% true. I am not a public speaker, and frankly speaking, so a couple of times, when I go to the university to give a presentation and to teach students, and then oh my God, okay, because it is my subject about marketing, so I can talk about it a lot, but my heart and my legs, they're trembling all the time. I'm like, oh my God, when is it going to get over? Because the yeah, because I get so scared, and then I'm like, when is it going to get over? Because I accept it, like, openly. I am not. I can do very well with one-on-one conversation, but not like when I see a crowd. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes, a lot of eyes.
I'm like, but I am actually going to apply what you mentioned, which is interacting with your audience. I'm definitely going to try this thing out.
Absolutely. It's actually another reason why it's really effective is if you forget what you're saying at all or you lose your track, just engage with the audience.
Yeah.
If you ever see a speaker say, turn to your neighbour and give them a high five, that means they forgot their script. And they just need a minute to distract everybody to get back on track.
Yeah.
And it's silly little things like that. So it could even be, right, go into a partner exercise, like, okay, we've just talked about this. How about you share with your table what you've taken from that? And that can give you a minute to go check your notes, see where you're at, and then you can come back and say, okay, who would like to share what they discussed at their table? And you might find that you get some brilliant things
Yeah.
from something you maybe didn't even realize. You might actually go, I never thought about that, and I'm the expert.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the brilliance is in the room,
Yeah.
because people will ask you questions to make you think in ways that you didn't think to think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love this line, brilliance is in the room. And I'm definitely, going to try this thing out. The interacting with the audience. I have noted
Yep.
it down.
And for energy, I always like to tell people as speaker, you want to be projecting at a volume of 7. So if 10 is shouting, you're at 7. So it's loud. You are really projecting. You're not quite shouting, but you're talking very loud. And that makes a big difference. The way the voice projects. It's funny, I once was speaking and there was 4 speakers, but only 2 of them were professionals, me and one other speaker, and we knew each other. And because professionals, we liked to film it, so we had our microphones on. And somebody came up to us and was like, wow, those microphones that you're wearing really make a difference. We could hear you so much better.
Yeah.
And we were laughing because the microphone was recording, not projecting. It was just because we were able to project, because we know how to do that, whereas the other speakers, they're talking quiet. They're just talking.
Yeah.
So we had a good laugh about that.
Yeah. That's okay. So you are saying that you should always, try and talk slightly at a lower pitch than your normal pitch. So because if you talk in a higher pitch, then you're going to come across as loud, then energetic is.
Yeah, I wouldn't, not so much pitch, but volume. I always say volume 7. It's as high as a volume as you can without shouting. And a lot of people come in on stage at a 4 or a 5. So by moving that up to 7, it makes a big difference in their energy. Like whenever I do training with people, I'll put them on stage and I'll stand at the back of the room and I'm like, I want to hear you. I always remind people to project.
Okay, that is also I have noted that as well. Basically keep it at 7 because I'm going to try it out.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, what's a common myth about personal development and success that you would like to debunk, that you think, okay, it's a total crap?
That's a really good question. A common myth, personal development. The funny thing is there's lots of them, but I think the one thing that does come to mind is I like to tell people, they see a lot of things on social media, and you'll know this very well. Social media is a marketing tool. The thing that gets the most views is the thing that sounds the best. The sexy advice gets the views. I said to somebody once, I could go over PE ratios, balance sheets, net and gross profits and margins. And if I'd done that presentation, how many of you would fall asleep? Most of the room, because it's boring. That's not going to go viral.
Yeah.
But it's important in business. So I think sometimes in personal development as well, you need to do the unsexy stuff. The stuff that people don't publicly talk about and that isn't trendy, like getting in an ice bath. It's cool, it's great, but that's not going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe not a specific myth, but I think it's a good reminder that the most viral advice, because you get a lot of influencers that that's how they make a living.
Yeah.
So they need to tell you the things that are going to get views.
Yeah.
When you work one-on-one with a coach, it's that, like I mentioned earlier, sell them on what they want and then give them what they need.
Yeah.
As long as you get them the results.
Yeah.
So sometimes how you help them is different from what they thought they needed.
Yeah. I think I think, you're spot on that, personal development is doing unsexy stuff. That is how you get there. Because, and, where everybody is so enamored by, seeing influencers, lifestyle and all. But actually, your subscription is their earning. So you're getting fooled by it, and they are just, selling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And I see that a lot. Personal development is like a muscle. You need to put the reps in. It's not going to grow overnight. You can grow really fast. You can change. Change can happen in an instant. Sometimes it takes 20 years for somebody to say, that's it, I've had enough of this, and then they change. So change can happen fast. That's maybe a common myth, that people think change takes a long time. Change can happen in an instant, but you're not going to transform overnight. So you can make a decision right now to say, right, that's it. I'm going to stop eating junk food. I'm going to start eating healthy and I'm going to start moving more and I'm going to build my energy up. You know, it doesn't need to be, right, I'm going to start running 5 kilometers every day, then I'm going to have a nice bath, then I'm going to, and before you know it, you're lying flat out on the ground going,
Yeah.
how do people do this?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't need a 4-hour morning routine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's doing the reps. Something simple one of my favourite ones that I've prescribed to people is go into a coffee shop and ask for a discount.
So discount.
You're going to get rejected because most coffee shops aren't allowed to. If you go to Starbucks, it's a big company, they can't give you it. So it's going in knowing that you're going to get rejected and doing it anyway.
Yeah, doing it anyway.
And building up that muscle of just at least try asking.
Yeah, try asking.
And being okay with getting told no.
Getting told no.
The best salespeople are the people who are the best at dealing with no. I know of someone who that's how he hires salespeople. Yeah. He rejects them first.
Yeah.
Tells them no, they're not getting the job.
Yeah.
And sees how they act.
Yeah.
You know, because a good salesperson will deal with the rejection and overcome it rather than just going, oh, I'm a failure.
Yeah.
So I know that was a bit more on sales, but I do highly recommend people trying little things like that, little activities. You know, if you're single, try going. You know, especially go to a different country, a different city, so that way nobody knows you, and go and say, right, I'm going to try being a different person. I'm going to be who I really want to be, and I'm going to go speak to loads of people, and maybe you might find that the person that you actually are, that you're hiding, might actually be what people want. But you're too scared to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're worried about getting rejected. So go try it in a different city where nobody knows you, because that way, what's the worst that's going to happen? You go home but you can practice being you, and I've thought about this a lot recently, actually. I've noticed myself, I'm a lot more me when I'm away from where I grew up.
Yeah.
Because when you grow up in one place, everybody knows you as that person from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know? You've changed a lot, but they don't see it because they're not you. They're not watching you all day. And on that note, people are watching a lot less than you think. Everybody's like, oh, I don't want to do that because people might think this.
Yeah.
Chances are they're not going to notice. They're too busy scrolling TikTok or watching your podcast. Yeah.
By thinking that, oh my God, what if that person, what will people think? People give a shit about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
People have their own shit going on. Yeah.
That's it. And that's so good to remember that.
Yeah.
People have their own shit. You're not alone. If you're dealing with your stuff, other people are dealing with it too.
Yeah. So it's just that. That's something, I don't know. I agree. And that, that especially that trick that, try and basically going in a different country and all together and basically asking out, people and see, because, that fear of judgment has left your body.
Yeah.
You don't know anybody there. So, and then, you probably in the process, you will recognize, okay, this is who you are. Because now,
yeah.
It's a
because
good...
I really do think we become good at acting and fitting society and becoming what society says we are. And I do think our true self gets lost.
Yeah.
So, and I think a great way to let it out is go on holiday, go somewhere else. Just go be you. And you might, in fact, I'm not going to say you might. You will be surprised.
Yeah.
I guarantee people will be more receptive to you being that person that you think nobody would like.
Yeah.
Because we're all weird. Yeah. We're all a bit crazy. Yeah. We're all unique.
Yeah, all of us. Yeah. We are weird. Yeah, that is true.
I remember I spoke to a girl and she was like, "Oh, but I'm weird," and I'm like, "Exactly. That's what I like. We're all weird." I'm a business owner. Yeah. We are all crazy. Yeah. You don't become a business owner unless you're a bit crazy. I
think the people we need to be scared of are the normal people. Just imagine when people, you should be scared of those people, whose every step is so thought out and they just, never make any mistake. You should be...
That's scary, yeah.
Those people, not the weird ones.
Absolutely. I remember I always say to people that, I don't get upset. I don't get hurt. You're not going to offend me. I say the only thing that you could say to me that'll upset me is if you called me normal.
Yeah, and oh my God,
that's the one thing I don't want to be.
Yeah, and can I tell you something? If somebody calls me, oh, you're not normal, so I'm like, thank God, you never call me normal, and I take it as an insult. If you call me normal, I am not normal. Normal for boring people.
Absolutely, and it comes back to that happiness and the beliefs. go be weird and have fun and do silly things
Yeah.
and be who you want to
Yeah.
be. Life's too short to not do that. Yes, we want to be all serious, and I'm very serious in my roles, and I do, but we also still have fun. We'll crack jokes, we'll have fun. But then out of that, when you're out of work or out of business, go be you and
Yeah.
have fun, and don't feel like you have to be this person all the time. You know, it's like that that like when that father role, when you've got to step up and be that person, but it's there's a time and place where sometimes you need to step up and sometimes you need to
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah, true that, true that. That was really cool, really cool. So now, Luis, I think we are at the. I think we have. Sorry, I'm going to ask you the last question, which is what's next, and which I don't want to because I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. But
I could talk all day.
yeah, yes, me too. But again, it has to end. But so I think the last. But you know what? We can probably maybe later after few months we can probably do it again because
Absolutely,
yeah.
that would be great. I would love to come back. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. The only thing I need to add though is, and you said it has to end at some point. Well, that's a normal thing, and we don't do normal.
Yeah, 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 true. True,
So it can't end.
that was very normal of me. Yeah, I mean, okay, we'll do it. We'll what do you call? We'll continue the conversation in our next podcast.
There we go. I like that. See, solution based.
Yes,
See, I like the
solution
mindset.
business.
Not always looking for
Yeah,
solutions. I like
yeah,
that,
I have
and
one.
that's a big takeaway for people listening as well. Have that look for looking for solutions rather than this is a problem. Okay, how can I fix it?
Yeah, yeah,
What can I do about it?
yeah,
There's always a solution.
yeah, yeah.
You might not like it, but there is always
There
one.
is always a solution. Yeah,
The option might be getting shot or getting stabbed. They're both pretty bad,
yeah,
but at least let's pick the less bad
yeah.
one. I like to say, it's not always good and bad, but sometimes it's bad and less bad.
Less bad. True that. Okay, so my last question is, what's next for you? What are your big goals and or projects you are working on? What are your plans for the rest of the 2025?
So much.
So yeah,
So right now we're setting up and systemizing the laundrette business. But what we're also looking to do is we're looking to do some more acquisitions where we want to buy some more businesses. So we're actually looking at merging that company with another laundrette
yeah,
who's looking to sell.
yeah.
So we're looking at that as a merger and we're looking at doing some acquisitions. So I'm really excited to take over some new businesses and add to the portfolio. I like to preface that with I mentioned earlier about focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to go, oh, he's buying businesses, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
But focus on the one thing. This is what I want to do. There's a possibility that I would probably make more if I just focused on the one business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I like having the portfolio and I like businesses that work together and they're all related. Like every business relates to each other. So that's a big goal. And then we have the Action Taker Summit in November. So we are hosting an event in Birmingham
Okay.
where myself will be speaking, my business partner Vincent will be speaking, and we've also got, at the moment, we've got 4 speakers confirmed. We're looking to get some more speakers. So that's going to be our big event that we do once a year, and it's just about bringing business people together and getting them to collaborate and network
Wow.
and really emphasize that saying earlier of the brilliance is in the room. I want brilliant people to come and share what they've got to share. And I always like to say that's the best place
Yeah.
to do business. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we'll go together. And I'm all about that. How can we help each other?
Love that. Love that. So mergers and acquisitions,
Yeah.
biggest event which is coming in November in
Yep.
Birmingham.
November in Birmingham.
Sounds great. Sounds great. And where can people find you? Like, if they want to contact you, is there any way, where, people can visit your
Absolutely.
website
Can
or,
reach out to me any way they want. I mean, I'm most active on LinkedIn.
yeah.
It's the easiest place to get me.
Okay.
But you can also get me on Instagram, which is lewis.hunter13, I believe. I might have to double check that. Somebody else might just get a load of messages. But, you'll certainly recognise me. I've obviously got my bio, my speaking. And yeah, I'm always open for people chatting. If anybody ever wants to reach out, wants to have a chat, I'm always, as long as my calendar allows it, I'm happy to get on a call with people, and hey, we might do business together. Maybe somebody has an opportunity, and I might want to invest, or I might want to get involved,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you know. And we're also building out a community. So we've got the Action Taker community, which has only just went live this week. So that's a free community that people can join and network with people.
Okay.
So that if people want to check that out, you can access that on the actiontaker.co.uk website.
Nice.
And yeah, that's a great place to reach me, get some questions answered, or potentially even do business. That's honestly, I'm all about the collaboration.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Luis. This has been an incredible conversation packed with insights on growth, mindset, and resilience. I know our listeners will walk away feeling inspired and ready to level up or take on the world. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and energy with us today. Looking forward to seeing everything you accomplish next. And for our part.
I look forward to it. I'm thoroughly looking forward to that, and I'm sure we'll have some awesome new things to chat about.
Okay, sure. So